Alright, Q&A time. Let's get right after it. Whoever timestamps this, please post that quickly. I'm timestamping this so some others don't do it also. And thank you very, very much. Alright, first question today. Nether, do you know how to heal nerves? I have an ulnar nerve entrapment in my elbow and I can't work out, please. Now, off the top of my head, I'm not highly educated on this subject as far as what a nerve entrapment in that spot really means. If that means that something structurally about your elbow joint is crushing the nerve, healing the nerve's one thing, but I don't know how to heal it if it's still being kept in place where it's being crushed. So without knowing if it's like a nerve that's out of place, I will just say my general idea of how to heal nerves as a subject in general. There are certain nutritional supplements which have been shown to regenerate nerves, even to build new nerves, even new neurons in the brain. Ashwagandha and Gotu Kola, both of those adaptogenic herbs, have this ability. I would take those in conjunction with phosphatidylserine, except let's just do one better and go straight to sunflower lecithin. Okay, sunflower lecithin, Lecithin. Sunflower lecithin, Gotu Kola, and ashwagandha off the top of my head. I know those things all have nerve regeneration properties. So that's a stack nutritionally that I would use. And then also, not knowing, like I said, maybe there's something therapeutic you can do that has to do with, a therapy exercise to kind of pump blood into the area. But I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know exactly what that condition is. So I don't want to be just totally shooting in the dark. So that's my thoughts off the top of my head about that. Much love. Next question. All my upper body lifts are going up, but my lower body exercises aren't. I'm also staying at the same body weight besides eating 3.5 thousand minimum calories a day. Should I eat more and try to increase my body weight, or should I put more focus on my lower body movements? Yeah, generally, not knowing how advanced you are and what all systems and how long you've been training and all that, just generally, good advice would be that if you are looking to gain overall mass and you've been lagging on lower body, those things really come together anyway. That whole religion out there about squats, that's kind of how that got started, because you can add more total mass weight to your body doing squats than you can with all your upper body exercises. So not knowing any more than that, I mean, you can get another better upgrade from me and I'll design, a lower body or whatever you need if you're having trouble figuring out how to stimulate your lower body enough to grow. But yes, my advice would be to focus more on your compound lifts that involve the lower body more to get your overall weight going, you need wheels. You need wheels under your truck, so don't leave your legs behind. That's my 2 cents. Much love. Next question. What would you tell someone? I can't answer that one publicly. That's a private discussion. Here we go. What do you think about strength binaural beats? Might there be a benefit to listening to them while working and studying? I believe that binaurals work because certain ones that I've used, now I haven't used a strength binaural, but certain ones I've used, for example, hair growth, testosterone booster, both of those in my experience have worked really well for me. Now, the hair growth one's easy to check when you got all kinds of thousands of new hairs growing out of your head at a fast rate. The testosterone booster one, it's not like I went and got a test, but once I started listening to it, I started feeling even more manic and aggressive than I already am. And within days, I started getting hairier, like all over me. So I knew it was working. I could feel it. And, my gym aggression went up and everything. And those were just the first two that I even used or even tried for the hair growth one. The first one I tried worked. The testosterone booster one, the first one I tried worked. So that's not to say that every binaural out there is made by somebody legit who knows what they're doing. I'm sure there's fake ones, but I know there's real ones, So yes, you should experiment with it. I mean, one good way to know if you've got some headphones you could put it on is Test yourself on things that you know how strong you are, and see. Just compare. If you're stronger, or if you have more reps or more energy or more something while you're working out, that's a good way to test it. Studying, I know that there's binaurals out there that help people study. You definitely want that one that whatever background sound they use isn't annoying you. It's a sound that you find nice, puts you in a good state of mind. So that's my 2 cents. But yes, I definitely believe they work. And if you experiment a bit and find... this one also says, is there a way for... This is your second question. Is there a way for one to tap into his hysterical strength? Granted, the tendons and ligaments are strong enough not to snap right away. Well, yeah, sure, there's a way. I mean, everybody's heard these stories about a woman who lifted a car off of her kid or something, you know, because in that moment, all she cared about was her kid, and her mind didn't even calculate, I can't lift a car. There was no time to have that thought, so she did lift the car because she fully expected to. This is just one more example of this whole transcend your own mind thing that, you know, we're talking about a lot these days. So, yeah, it's possible, definitely. Now, could you supersede the strength of your own tendons? Well, sure, people do that all the time, right? It could happen. Generally, though, it's weird. I see most people's tendons snap when they're not doing a max weight. A lot of times, it's not even when they're doing a max weight exercise. It's when they're doing an exercise that just, the way it pulls on that tendon is disadvantageous, to say the least. So anyway, I always recommend doing max 1 rep pulls with ranges of motion and exercises that you can use the most weight. So not your standard deadlift and not your standard this or that. Whatever you can use the most weight, because then you're subjecting your skeleton and your connective tissues to the most poundage possible. Gives it the most reason to be as bulletproof as possible, right? As a generalization. So those are my thoughts on that. Much love. Next question. Someone commented that fat cells can move in insects, and they put a link. That's really cool, because people were wondering about redistributing your fat in different places on your body. And I have no doubt that based on your mindset and your hormone levels and neurotransmitters and all that, you can change the placement of the same percentage of body fat in different places on your body. I don't know a lot about it from personal experience, but instinctively from the other things I've experienced, it's just one more mind over matter thing that can be done. Yeah. Tips for anti-aging skin. I think I answered that already. If not, my tips are organic castor oil, and when you want to take it to the next level for good, great skin treatment, add in some organic turmeric powder, so you have kind of a yellow oily paste, and soak that into your skin and leave it for, like I'll leave it for a whole day here and there when I do that, and improves complexion and skin, stuff like that. So very healthy, very nurturing and so forth. Yeah, that's about all I know. I don't use much. That's basically all I do. So, well, then again, the main thing about healthy anti-aging for your skin is your internal environment. I mean, no matter how many great things you figure out to do topically that can maybe keep blemishes down or whatever, ultimately, blemishes are just showing that there's so much toxic baggage inside your body. It's just they're just tearing holes through your skin just to push it right out through the side of the boat, so to speak, to get rid of that dead weight. So when you think about it, it's all about the deep internal cleansing, and those are all, you know, long-term processes that become a very rewarding lifestyle. You know, because it's like each time you dig in deeper and strip out a layer of things that don't serve you well that are in your body, you kind of level up into a better body and a better mind-body-spirit connection. So that's my, you know, higher best advice for that is it's all about the internal cleansing. When you get internally clean to the point where you don't have skin blemishes, then you know you're miles healthier than you were. So much love. Next question. This is just someone sharing, and I'm going to read it because it's cool. Dark Messiah. He says, this is not a question, but something I want to share. The very recent change of diet and the new program are making me feel like immortality is it's right in front of me, and I just have to put my hand in front of me in order to get it. Anyway, the point is I'm having some real creativity squirting action here. And here's the better sauna detox way I just thought about it, and it's savage. Get some hot chili, eat it, eat more. Are you sweating? If no, sit your ass down and eat more fire energy. If yes, then get in the sauna, and the chili action will enhance your detox. It's energy. Yeah, actually I've done, not exactly chili, but what have I used? I think I've done like onion juice before. Um, what else? I remember I was using some supplement that got me sweating before I even got in there. So anyway, I like the principle. Yes, you might as well increase the sweat to make the most out of the sauna. Absolutely. Open your pores and get it done. All right, next question. What are your thoughts on very low calorie intake vegan diets consumed in a 1 hour window every day? Very low calorie intake vegan diets consumed in a 1 hour window every day. Can you gain muscle? Also, have you seen Dr. Amin-Ra? He preaches this protocol for overall performance and longevity and is very lean and muscular. Yeah, as long as you're not worried about being a mass monster, actually, on very low calorie diets, the body gets much more efficient. You know, the amount of muscular body, here's what I'm saying. This goes with my metabolism and my personal experiment at a lot of different weight classes that I've been in, okay? What I've noticed with me, and I'm sure it applies to others at least to some degree, is that when you're way lighter and you're eating way, way less, like I personally could maintain a maybe 180 pound muscular lean physique with like 50, 60 grams of protein a day, okay? Now, to go from 180 to 240, that's 60 more pounds, which percentage-wise is what? That's, well, it's a third, right? So we're adding a third of the weight again, so you would think that theoretically, if 1 equaled 1, you'd only have to add a third of the more calories to have that 240 body, but it's not true. I end up having to have like 4 times as much calories to have that 240 body than I do to have the 180. And if we're talking about same body fat percentage in either case. So when you think about that, a leaner, thinner body is much more efficient. The only thing, and I'm sure you know this, the only thing that I would advise you is key on a diet like that is to make sure you do get all your necessary nutrients in a form that you can absorb them. All your essential nutrients, all your micronutrients, because obviously it's low calorie, so you need to make sure that 1 hour eating window really, really counts. You get the best possible eating done for you during that time, of course, to get all your nutrients. But yes, if you do, you're fasting all day, your body's clean and efficient, it's not wasting anything, and it will build very efficiently with whatever you give it with. So yes, you can gain muscle. Obviously, there's going to be a ceiling on the overall total mass that you can accumulate. But let's say you wanted to put specifically muscle on your biceps and your lateral delts this month, right? I've done that. I've added muscle in specific areas while I was on a super calorie restricted diet, like almost starving. I've been able to add muscle on specific muscles that I focused on during that time. So I know from personal experience that it's very possible to build muscle, and your body does become very efficient when it's living low calorie. And yes, theoretically your longevity should be better too, because one of the main things that kills people is all the metabolic disasters that occur from eating. And a lot of that, of course, is from eating wrong for their own body, but as a generalization, that's why restrictive diets mean longer lives for people and most animals. So that's my 2 cents. Much love. I think I've seen Dr. Amin-Ra somewhere before. I think I remember seeing a picture of him that somebody linked me. And yeah, definitely impressive physique, and I totally believe him that he's legit and how he's doing that. So, very cool. Anybody that's out there helping people heal themselves and empower themselves, I don't care what their physique is, but if they happen to have a good physique, that just adds to it. But yeah, much respect and love. All right, next question. Does nucleus overload work with abs? Well, I'm sure it works, yeah. I mean, I don't know from personal experience, because the last thing I want is the biggest, gnarliest abs possible. But I'm sure it works, yeah. Same principle with any muscle. What would be a good exercise for that? Now, me personally, I think crunches and sit-ups are retarded. So maybe hanging leg raises. If you have, one of those seats you can set your arms on and do it, or just hang, brace your back so you're not swinging, because it'll take too long if you're trying to do like 100 and something reps swinging. But that's what comes to mind for me. If I was going to embark on a go all out on my abs type protocol, I like the hanging leg raise type exercises a lot more than any crunching sit up type move. But I don't train core directly, so I almost have no right to speak on that topic. But I know that, yes, in principle it'll work. And you want something very high rep, and you want something that really targets the abs well. Crunches and sit ups for most people are kind of a waste of time. And they can even cause imbalances and spinal irritations and shit. So either something hanging leg raise style, or even on the ground, lying on your back, crunching crossways, bringing elbow to knee. I don't know what you call any of those fancy little ab exercises, but something that involves crunching upwards with your knees, trying to bring your knees into your own brain, is my general advice on an exercise to use abs. Much better than when you're just crunching your face towards your nuts and you're only working your very top ab anyway, if you're lucky. All right. Cool, man. Next question. Much love. How do you find out what your purpose is? How best to help other people? How to not be a user on this planet? How to have the courage to do this? Wow, man. The fact that you're even concerned about being a user means you're not one. Because believe me, the users, they don't think that way. They feel fully entitled to just parasite off everybody all the time. How to find what your purpose is? Well, meditation. Any form of meditation where you can actually shut out all the voices of the world and go back, if you can, to who you were as a very young child before anybody discouraged you. Now, a lot of people were discouraged before they were old enough to talk, so this is not possible. But if you had a kind of childhood where you can even go back and remember and think, before adults or whoever in this world told me that you can't do those things and blah blah and you should do this instead, who was I? If you can answer that question, then you'll know an area of life where you have a real calling. And when you find it, you'll know, because you'll have passion for it. You'll have energy. You'll wake up with energy every day to do the things you have a passion for, instead of waking up wondering how you're even going to drag yourself out of bed to face another empty day doing things you don't have any calling to be doing, which a lot of the poor, sad, shut down zombies on this planet, that's why they're so shut down. They went to sleep a long time ago because life was just empty, meaningless rituals they're being forced to do, or so they think. So to be in a state of meditation, or to find your inner child again, is the truth. That's where you'll find who you really are before the world convinced you that you can't and you have to be just like everybody else. How to have the courage to do this. Remember, courage is not about not being afraid. Courage is about being afraid, but going, you know what? I'm not going to let these fears stop me because they're illusions. I know that this is a rewarding path for me, and so I'm going to do it anyway. And then the fears can come up, and you just don't need to judge them, and you don't need to be upset that you have fears. Everybody has fears. They happen. Sometimes we're sideswiped by fears we didn't even know we had. And sometimes that's what happens when you take up a new pursuit that really is more in line with your some true calling that you have in life. Some of the fears that you have that maybe you don't even know you have that are blocking you from that path will come up. And the way this works energetically, they're coming up for you to let them go, not for you to wrestle with them. So you don't want to be upset about your fears. You don't want to get tangled up in them. You just want to accept them. Yeah, that's okay. This is a fear I've been carrying, but I don't need it. It's an illusion. And so courage is a choice, is what I'm saying here. Courage is a choice. Courage is not being afraid. If you're not afraid of something, then there's no courage involved, right? Courage is when you have fears about something, but you also realize that fears make humans blind. So it's okay to experience your fears. You should experience them, but don't believe them. Don't believe the things your fears tell you, that you can't, or that you should, or this or that, or guilt or shame or anything else. Do not believe your fears, okay? That's how you move forward with courage. Understand that they will come up, but fears are lies. They're filled with lies, okay? Keep that in mind. It's our own lies that we tell ourselves to protect ourselves from living more, okay? Much love. Next question. If your goal is to build bigger and stronger forearms, what's more efficient, direct grip training or common movements like hammer curls, reverse curls, wrist curls, chin-ups, etc. Well, it's funny. If you would have said if your goal is just to build stronger forearms for gripping, I would say just do the heavy grip work. But you're asking bigger and stronger. So ultimately, it's going to require some of both. If you had said only bigger, I would have went the other way. I would have said use all the different, more bodybuilding, hitting them from different angles with different exercises. Since you're asking both, I got to say both. You need room in your forearm training for both. Remember, grip training is the simplest thing in the world. Do a rack pull and hold a weight that's hard to hold for as long as you can until your fingers give out and it hits the pins. You're done. Boom. Then you can go on to doing all your different curling motions and this and that. And for those interested in maybe taking it to a higher level, I recommend researching and educating yourself a little bit on occlusion training or blood flow restriction training. It's a great way to add to the gains you get on arm and leg type workouts. And forearms being kind of a tricky thing that most people are going to probably want to train with a real high frequency and volume, you might as well add occlusion training to it to get more gains out of all that forearm work you're doing. It's something to research. Much love. Next question. What are the basics of good food combinations? Somebody posted the Casey food combinations. Maybe somebody can post it on this again, or I will. If I don't, somebody else do. If I forget, please post this on here again. Hopefully when we got that on a few Q&As, people will know that to reference that so they don't ask this question over and over. All right, next question. How can one make his nervous system as strong as possible so that the strength for a lift comes mostly from the nervous system and not mechanically from the shape or the form of the muscles, aka transcend the so-called natural strength limitations? Much love. You're a true inspiration for me. Well, thank you, my friend. It's an honor. It's an honor to be inspiring to you. So, yeah, this is kind of more, in my experience, focusing very specifically on low volume training and just high power. 1 reps up to maybe 5 rep maxes at the most on the lifts that you're working for strength. And the way I would do it is if I'm able to hit a 1 rep max on something, my training on that muscle group is done that day. Done. Because what that means is you're getting stronger each time. So any extra work you do is just more volume. It's more likely to make you gain size anyway. So the nervous system is all about the mind-muscle connection, the willpower, the mind-body-spirit connection, how much electrical force can you send from your consciousness through your physical form. So yeah, believing in it, visualizing it, seeing yourself as being that guy, picturing the guy who lifts so much more than his size looks like he would lift. Picture that guy doing it and picture yourself. And if you consistently hold to that fantasy, you'll find that you become it more and more so. So again, as far as training though, you don't want to do high volume training, you don't want to do mass training, you don't want to overeat. Me personally, being pound for pound strongest on 1 rep maxes always comes down to, and this is more in the past, the way I used to train, some time ago, but it was just very focused. I'd come in there, let's say it's bench press we're talking about, I would just work up to my 1 rep max. Like I said, if it was a new personal best, I'm done with bench training. Now whatever else I got planned that day, I can move on to that. But I would also have a split that keeps it very simple, and I wouldn't try to go full body. I wouldn't try to do too much in one session. I'd pick one major area and just focus on that 1 rep max. And if I don't hit a one rep personal best, then I'll drop the weight down to maybe 90% or 80% of my max and just do one all-out working set on that exercise with everything you got. And if it's the kind of thing where you can add a few cheat reps at the end, add a few cheat reps at the end. Really make that one set count. Give those muscles the message. Give your nerves the message, guys. We got to get stronger. But that's it. I wouldn't do any more than that. To be honest, that's my personal experience with being pound for pound very, 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 very strong, just in the nervous system. Volume training has nothing, The only time you'd want to do more volume is if you have a weak mind-muscle connection to a certain area. Volume training can be useful for that because every single rep is an electrical signal getting sent through a weak nerve pathway, and that gives it more opportunity to strengthen itself. So the one and only time I'd say do add in volume is where you have a weak mind-muscle connection. Train that section high volume maybe once a week or something to build your mind-muscle connection. But outside of that, it's all about those 1 rep maxes, or maybe 1, 2, 3 rep maxes on the exercises that are most important to you, and low volume training and not overeating. So you're pound for pound dense and hard and scary strong, and it's mostly in your nervous system. All right, much love. Next question. Tips to prevent baldness. Yeah, I guess we'll timestamp that one more time. Organic castor oil on the scalp daily, or at least a few times a week. And if you want to take it to the next level, add in the organic turmeric powder. The castor oil in and of itself stimulates hair growth of any kind. The turmeric powder is this will especially apply to men, but it'll even help women because it's anti-inflammatory and it's very high in antioxidants and things that your hair follicles will like. But for guys especially, turmeric is very anti-DHT, okay? So if you're dealing with male pattern baldness, having the castor oil soak that turmeric deeper into the roots of your hair follicles stops that in its tracks, okay? A lot of people get regrowth using those things, okay? So you can research it or just experiment with it. Much love. Next question. Okay, I think I answered that one before. How would you train if you wanted to get a stronger mid-back, rhomboids, traps, and upper chest using body weight exercises only? Can you create a new nether shrug exercise that doesn't require a bar? Let me think. A nether shrug with no bar. Well, now, if you're talking about working out with like nothing, that's pretty difficult. I'm not sure what you're really working with. If you have so much as, say, a park with some monkey bars and some things like that, what you can do is find a way to get a grip with your hand on a bar that's kind of down here, maybe somewhere around rack pull height, and then use your legs to create the motion. The same way, it's like doing a chin-up instead of a curl. Excuse me, it's like doing a chin-up instead of a pull-down. You're going to move your body through space to achieve the same thing. So your hand now is attached to this fixed bar that's not going to move. And you push upwards with your leg, and you get turned, of course, where you're internally rotating, get your hand position right. You can rep. You could get nether chest shrugs that way. If you have something like a bar that's at a height that you can work with to grab onto, and then use your legs. Yes, you're going to be getting some leg work because you're kind of doing squats in order to create another chest shrug, but hey, a little extra conditioning. So, as far as mid-back, rhomboids, traps, that's easier. Basically, same thing as far as rack pulls. If you can find a monkey bar outside that's at a height either below or above the knee to do a static rack pull, and it doesn't have to be entirely static. You can start with your legs more bent and get lower. Use wrist wraps, okay, so you can pull as hard as possible like you're trying to rip this thing out of the ground. Don't do it if it's really wimpy park equipment. I don't want anybody getting in trouble with their city, but most of that stuff's, pretty thick metal bars that are concreted into the ground, so you should be okay. Pull up on it as hard as you can and push up it with your legs as you do, so you're actually changing the angle on your back as you're coming up under that bar, pushing as hard as you can. You get a massive stretch overload on your traps just like doing a rack pull. Again, it's the same difference between doing a chin-up and doing a pull-down. It's just one of them you're moving your body through space, and generally those are better exercises anyway, if you had to vote as to which one's more superior. It's a little awkward because you're limited to whatever random objects you have somewhere to grab to anchor yourself to. But I find that in the local park, but you guys know me, I visualize a lot of creative exercises whenever I look at anything. But I can go out and look at the local monkey bars and little you know, the little metal ladders they have and different parts of this for this toy and this attachment and this. A lot of it's just like kid equipment out there, but when there's not kids around, I can actually do some pretty cool exercises on some of that stuff. So you can do like trap, stretch, overload, static rack pulls that way. You can and then if there's monkey bars or anything similar to that, do Australian pull-ups for your mid back. It's the equivalent of doing rows, and then do a nether style Australian pull-up. Take your arms out of it, and you can even do one arm at a time. Brace your feet wide in a triangle and do Australian pull-ups nether style, no arm bend, until your mid-back falls off on one side, and then switch arms and do it the other way. So yes, you can absolutely build all those muscles as long as you have some bars or something to pull against without owning any weights. So hopefully that's what you're asking with that question. Much love. I've actually designed some Nether Better upgrade programs for people that don't have weights, but they do have a park. And we've designed, you know, badass full body ways of training. Just, you know, they sent me pictures on what they have at their park, and I can design, you know, workouts using all that stuff. So just keep that in mind, guys. That's what a Nether Better upgrade's for. It's for, you know, it's not for standard basic stuff you see everybody do. It's for like when you're not quite sure what to do in your situation, because, you know, I've had to train under every kind of circumstances through my life where I didn't even have access to my own weights, for example, okay? So I'm good for that kind of thing. Much love. Next question. Can you combine fruits with anything, or should you eat them alone? Eat them alone, yeah. Fruit is healthy when eaten alone. For those that don't have blood sugar issues like myself, it's healthy. It is not healthy when you combine it with other foods. What happens is, because fruit is something that's designed to digest really quickly, like within 15 to 30 minutes, when you put it in your stomach with any other food group, all other food groups are much slower digesting than that. So what happens is the fruit rots and it ferments in your gut, and it creates like alcohol and sugars, and then candida just multiplies out of control off that shit. This is one of the many reasons why candida and yeast overgrowth issues are just rampant all throughout people's bodies these days. So it's one of those crazy things where, yeah, fruit's good for you in and of itself, or at least it's good for most people, but the way most people eat it, combining with other foods, it's bad for them. Probably better off not even eating it if you're going to mix it with other food groups. So hopefully that answers that. Now you're asking, like, if you mix it with like banana with kale and spinach. When it comes to juicing, if you're going to blend that stuff up really good in a juicer, then I believe you can get away with mixing fruit and vegetable juices, because it's broken down into tiny particles, so the fruit part should be able to digest fast the way it's supposed to. So that's the one exception I would say, is when you're doing juicing, you can mix some fruits and vegetables. Watch your gut though. If it gives you gas, then you know it's still not working for you. Anything that gives you gas just tells you you're not really digesting it right. But as long as you don't get gas from mixing kale and spinach and bananas, but again, I'm talking juicing here. I still would not advise people to eat actual fruits and vegetables mixed together. It's just not nice to your digestive tract, and it's just not the best use of those foods. They're supposed to be healthy foods, but when you mix them, it kind of defeats the purpose. So hopefully that covers that. Much love. Next question. General opinion on Olympic lifting. Well, I love how it's explosive and athletic, you know. There's a lot of crossover from that into real world stuff. And it's cool to watch. It's exciting. It's incredible how you see Olympic lifters who don't have, say, much muscle mass. Well, some of them do and some don't. But I've seen, like, female Olympic lifters press shit over their head that's just fucking ridiculous, you know. And they look like they got these little arms, but I mean, the amount of control and power and coordination, explosiveness they have in their body really, really impresses me. So I like the way it's so athletic. I like the way it's so real-world functional. It teaches the body to work together. As much as I like bodybuilding, I'd say Olympic lifting's kind of the opposite thing that you can do with weights, because it's all about how much weight you can get from point A to point B using your whole body any way you can. And that's a really cool challenge, because it's all about functionality in the real world. Whereas bodybuilding's all about how hard can you make it for the muscles to lift a lighter weight, so you can totally destroy them and annihilate them and make them grow. It's almost opposite challenges, but I think it's cool. I don't do much of it myself usually, but yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. Much love. Next question. Tips for bags under the eyes. Generally adrenal fatigue, kidney issues, kidney electrolyte balance, kidney function, lymph system, candida, full body cleansing. From what I've seen from people that had the dark circle or the bags under their eyes for a long time, it almost always has to do with the lymph system and the kidneys and the adrenals. So if you want to go research adrenal fatigue, lymph cleansing, full body detox from candida, and find how all those things are tied together, I honestly think you'll find kind of an explosion of useful information if you go looking. Okay? Much love. Next question. Hypothetical, but how would you train a complete beginner? Well, I've done some programs for beginners, Never Better beginner programs. I stick to not quite as challenging of exercises, but still good ones. I don't stick to the big three, if that's what you're wondering. For example, any beginner would be better off learning a trap bar deadlift than a standard deadlift, unless their goal is to compete in powerlifting. Your long-term functional strength, muscle mass gains, and not fucking up your body will be a lot better off with a trap bar than they will with a standard deadlift. Bench is okay for beginners, but weighted push-ups are better if they're into it. For squats, I'm more likely to use weighted terminal knee extensions or split squats or weighted lunge variations or upright Jefferson lifts, Jefferson squats, hack barbell squats. I consider all those things just as viable for beginners as standard squats. Basically, whichever way you pick up that barbell and start learning how to lift it, that's how you're going to learn how to lift it. So there's nothing magical about teaching all beginners the old-fashioned, outdated three. But anyway, I can write programs for beginners if they have any specific goals. That's nice. Like if they tell me, mostly I'd just like to gain size and strength. Okay, that's going to be one beginner program. If they tell me I want to look like a fitness model, that's going to be a whole different beginner program. If they tell me I play football and I want you to make me better at football, that's going to be a whole different beginner program. You know what I mean? But you just take into consideration not getting overly complicated with exercise selection and picking ones where they're going to get a lot of bang for their buck, and not overdoing it on volume or complexity. And making sure you hit the whole body in an intelligible way instead of missing key sections that most beginners or noobs do, and then 10-20 years down the line they're like, well shit, now I gotta start building these muscles that I've never built. So those are my basic thoughts on how I construct something for a beginner. Much love. Next question. I'm doing burpees every day to train for a 10K just because I want to see what will happen. My 10K isn't until mid-April. I just did 300 reps today. Wow. 23 minutes and 35 seconds. And I'm working my way to 600. Wow. What do you think the conversion of burpees to running miles is? As long as your feet and legs don't fatigue weirdly when you're running that 10K, you should be fine. There should be a lot of carryover. The only thing I remember, there's been times where I had super good cardio, but I hadn't been doing any long distance running. And I'd get a hair up my butt one day and go for a long run, anything from 5 miles or more. If I haven't been running, I consider that long. And sometimes your feet, either they're blistered up or they got Charlie horses, or they got certain spots in them that are so sore because they're just not used to that repetitive motion of running for that long. So that would be my only concern. As far as your conditioning, yeah, you're going to be badass on your conditioning. So as long as your feet and legs are ready to hit the ground that many times without getting weird cramps or weirdly sore, or bruised, or beat up, you should be good to go. I think there will be a lot of carryover. Now, I still think that specificity of training is usually number one. I still think that running practice is going to have more carryover to running. But I think what you're doing is amazing, and I think burpees, as far as conditioning, I mean, your overall physique and body conditioning is going to be better from being Mr. Burpee than it is from anybody that goes and runs on the regular, you know. So it'll be a lot of carryover, and your overall athletic conditioning from that's got to be really badass. Hopefully you're doing something on your back too to externally rotate to build some strength, because burpees that kind of involve a push-up, everything's going forward. You're strengthening your abs, your chest, your front delts, and that's a lot of reps, so everything's being pulled forward more. You know, it's just something to think about. Hopefully you have some external rotation work at least to balance that out so that there's no negatives down the line just from training so focused in a certain way. So that's my thoughts on that. Much love. Okay. Hi Nether, a few questions about nucleus overload. Trying it with delts 5 days a week, 3 or 4 minutes as you recommended in your other video. Cool. I'm using 5-pound plates. Is this enough to produce results? Yeah, absolutely. It's not about the weight. I mean, as long as it's burning and smoking, it's working. Also, I'm a bit confused. Do I still have a regular shoulder day lifting in my normal heavy weights while doing this nucleus overload phase? It's your choice. I've done it both ways. I've done only nucleus overload and you know, for extended periods, and even gained some size in the muscle during that time. But I've also done it where even like now, my shoulder training, I do nucleus overload sometimes, and I do more you know, heavier days sometimes. So what I'm saying is, as long as you're not feeling overtrained and run down, there's nothing wrong with having a heavy shoulder day mixed in with your nucleus overload days. All right? Can I do nucleus overload with my neck while doing my delts, or should I wait until I finish delt phase and do neck? As long as you've got the time and the interest in putting in, you can do every muscle on your body if you want. There's no rule that's like you need to only do one at a time. The results will be just as good from, you know, on whichever muscles you're doing. So, yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. You might as well, if you're into it, you might as well go for it and get your neck nucleus overload in too while you're in this phase. And then when you shift out of this phase, neck and shoulder gains from whatever you're doing next will be better than they would have been otherwise. So that's cool. Much love. Next question. Are there benefits on sleeping early? For example, sleeping at 9 p.m. and waking up at 6 a.m. I have a nocturnal sleeping pattern. People will always talk about the circadian rhythm or whatever the fuck that is. Yeah. And it says read more here. Do you think... Oh, okay. 2 questions. So let's address that one first. Now, I'm a more nocturnally geared person too, and I finally just accepted that eventually. I said, you know what? Whatever works for me is what works for me. I couldn't care less about sleeping at the same time everybody else does. If my body doesn't want to do it, I might as well just work with my body. So I'd say what's most important is that you get enough sleep for you. It's not about you have to sleep at a magical time, because we're not all set to the same rhythm, okay? And when you spend a lot of time worrying about when you sleep, it makes it even harder to sleep. You end up missing more sleep, I know, because, you know, I've dealt with that too. So I think that just accepting your own body and doing your best to work with who you are physically and feeling good about that and not worrying about what anybody else thinks anymore, you'll end up getting better sleep that way. That's my 2 cents. Your next question. Do you think you fit Alpha Destiny's bear mode physique criteria? I've seen a couple of his bear mode videos, but I'm not sure exactly what that criteria is, so I can't say. I like bears though, if that counts. So I don't know. You tell me, man. I'm not exactly sure what the criteria is. Probably not. I don't exactly fit any real criteria, but I'd imagine I'm part bear, right? A certain percentage of bear. This grizzly bear growing on my face, for example, that makes me part bear. All right, much love. Next question. My right pec has great development in all regions, upper, lower, outer, inner. My left pec is only developed on the outer and lower areas. Okay, which makes my chest look kind of weird. Right. Do you think the nether chest shrug on the left side or both sides would fix this? All the standard device hasn't worked. Yeah. I think the nether chest shrug is the perfect thing for this, and I would do only the left side until you've basically caught it up to the right side. Because again, guys, there's never been any real upper or inner, well, yeah, there's never been an exercise like this that isolates your upper chest. There just isn't. And it's really good for inner chest. It builds that inner pop, gives you a deeper cut. So this is perfect for what you're dealing with. I would do nether on chest day in order to, so you still get to work your right pec, say. I would do whatever two-handed exercises you like. I don't know if you're into bench press or dips or what you're into, but I would do some of that to keep my strength up, and then I would finish off with, I don't know, maybe 4 really high rep sets on your left side, getting familiar with that nether chest shrug until it's your best friend, and you're really controlling the contractions right where you want it and building that pec exactly where and how you want it. Now, will it end up looking exactly the same as the right one? Probably not, because you're building it in a different way. But if you can get the size equal, that's 95% of the battle right there. You know, almost all of us, when we flex our muscles, the right one and the left one don't look exactly the same. So as long as they're ballpark same size, they kind of match that way, you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. So I would highly recommend that. I think it's the perfect thing, and I think up until now nothing existed that would have really helped. Much love. Next question. My biceps are stubborn as shit. They don't grow from any amount of curling, and I haven't really gotten results from weighted chin-ups either. I just started doing the heavy negative chin-ups, so we'll see if that works. Bart, are there any good nether tricks for biceps that you could share with me? Yeah, the heavy negative should help. Remember, play around with your hand positioning and play around with your mind-muscle connection. What a lot of guys don't realize until you're at a certain point in your training, you guys could watch me do pull-ups or chin-ups, or let's take chin-ups, that's what we're really talking about. You guys could watch me do chin-ups and not really know whether I'm focusing my lats or my biceps, but I can do chin-ups using almost all lat, and I can do chin-ups using almost all bicep, with my hands in the same place. And sometimes I'll do a set where I start out maybe using mostly lats, and then when they fatigue, I start using arms, and it all looks like one set, except it kind of has a second wind to it. My point with all this is you can learn to use your arms to resist that heavy negative on the chin-up instead of your lats. Focus your mind on your biceps. Make them pull till they feel like they're going to tear in half trying to resist all that weight. And fight it as long and hard with that massive stretch overload that'll damage all those bicep muscle fibers, and they will have no choice to grow because you're giving them the message. Now, my other hint here is to learn about occlusion training, blood flow restriction training, and start doing daily bicep feeders with occlusion bands. Getting a pump that will make your bicep literally almost tear and explode forces it to have to grow by an entirely different mechanism than all the other forms of training you're doing. I found it is quite effective. I've been using it on my arms. I use occluded feeders every day on my arms. That's the majority of my arm training right there. And it works better for me than everything else I've ever read about. So I would look into that. Those two key tips right there. Those 2 keys, if you use them, you can definitely get on top of your biceps and get them working with you. Wake them up and make them join the party. Much love. Next question. Dear Nether, I'm having a hard time developing a mind-muscle connection with my traps when I do farmer's walks. If I try to let my traps go as low as possible, get the most stretch, it feels like I'm internally rotating my shoulders. And if I retract my scapula, I feel my traps not really being stretched enough. I don't know what to do with my neck. Oh, do I stare at the ceiling straight ahead or the floor? Farmer's walks. Well, I haven't been doing many farmer's walks lately. I've done it. To me, it's a pretty awesome full body coordinator and a core exercise, but I never considered it one of my favorite trap builders. So, as far as just what to do with your neck, now when you're doing a farmer's walk, geez, man, I think you just have to look ahead at where you're walking, you know. So I'm thinking neutral, face forward, or slightly downward. I mean, that's the way I've done it, but I'm not the expert on this. Maybe somebody out there has a big important theory on where it's important to have your head. But what I would submit to you is that if this is really about building traps and mind muscle connection to traps, here's how trap day would look for me if I was having trouble with my mind muscle on my traps and I wanted to really build some traps. I would start out with a really high rep set of good old shrugs, either dumbbells, barbell, front of the back, behind the back, I don't even care. Whichever way you think you feel it best. Maybe take half what you think is your max weight and just rep it for a really high rep set. Because the high reps are helpful for building that mind muscle connection again. Then with somewhat of that pre-fatigue, I would move on to my rack pulls, and I would rack pull maybe again something like approximately 50% of my max, and I would rep it as many times as possible for one set. And I'm talking above the knee here. Generally that works really well for me, especially for upper traps. There are those who will need to go below the knee to get better trap activation, but I'd start out just trying the above the knee. Then next I would hit nether rows at a about halfway in between straight up and flat angle, and I'd do one really high rep set on each side. Then I'd hit another set of nether rows down like this, closer to level, and one really high rep set on each side. That way all parts of your traps have gotten a lot of activation. It's a high rep training system, and therefore you're going to develop more of that mind muscle connection you're lacking with your traps. And all those moves I listed, those are for me by far the best trap builders. And even when you're not going max weight, when you're going high rep, they're still great trap builders. That's been my experience with it. So that's my thoughts. Looking at your question, I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were looking for, but hopefully it's useful to you. Much love. Next question. Okay, you've got a few questions here. Your opinion on nootropics, and then you listed specifically modafinil or something. Now I don't know what modafinil is. If it's a man-made drug, personally I wouldn't trust it or take it, because you've got herbal adaptogenic nootropics out there that are amazing, that make you smarter, wiser, more balanced, more spiritually awake over time, like Gotu Kola and Brahmi. And they're amazing nootropics, and they have zero negative side effects, and they make all parts of your health better over time as a tonic herb. Whereas anything man-made, it might have an enjoyable nootropic effect if it happens to work right for you, but it's going to have other consequences in the body because it's a man-made toxic drug. It's no doubt hard on the kidneys and liver like everything else they make in these pills. So that's my 2 cents on that. Nootropics from nature, from highly intelligent, conscious, sentient plants that are incredible. They're living and work with you according to whatever your body needs inside. That's to me, that's light years ahead of anything man's going to be making anytime soon. Your next question says, thoughts about energy drinks and artificial sweeteners? Yeah, terrible. It's a drug that takes advantage of the fact that people don't have any natural energy because their health sucks. And so what are you doing when you go take this crappy thing full of toxic garbage that breaks down your body even further to give you fake energy so you can keep burning your candle at both ends while simultaneously poisoning your body with garbage, making it even weaker so you're even less likely to have any real energy. And your adrenal fatigue just keeps getting worse because you're using stimulants to force your body to do things it's not healthy enough to be doing. So it's just a cycle. It's just a drug that takes advantage of stressed out people that are trying to get through their day, you know. Now, I don't judge anybody for drinking an energy drink. I don't go around, karate kicking them out of people's hands or anything. I'm not I'm not one of those people, but I'm just, since you asked as a friend, that's my honest thought, Much love. Next question. Your next question says, how many different types of subliminals can you use at a time, and will the effect be faster, slower, with a different amount? I don't know. I do not know the answer to that. My instinct and my intuition says you could probably use at least 2 at a time and still get results. And a part of me feels like you could probably take many at a time, because I feel like your subconscious brain, where you're picking up most of them, not even brain, your subconscious mind, where you're picking up most of those messages, is this huge thing which can capacitate information from multiple lifetimes. So it's not limited like your normal conscious mind that would be confused by trying to listen to multiple strains of information at the same time. So instinctively, I believe it'll work. I believe you can use multiple, but I don't really know. So you should just Google it and research it and look for somebody who does know, who has experience with that and can explain why it would work. Okay, much love to you too, my friend. Next question. What's your take on soy and tofu? Is it bad for you? Does it lower testosterone? Should you avoid it? Keep up the good work. Well, thanks, friend. As far as now, I don't eat soy and tofu personally because I don't really know, and therefore I don't want to mess with it. I got enough other food options that I haven't been forced to eat soy and tofu. Now, I've eaten them in the past, and I thought they tasted okay, but once I started hearing all this research suggesting that they're feminizing or something, I thought, well, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm not going to eat something that makes me wonder. So that's my personal approach. I also remember reading somewhere that there's different processes by which they prepare tofu, and one of the ways they do it, supposedly it ends up having none of the feminizing effects, and the other way it's prepared it does, but I don't remember the difference. So I'm not an expert. I tend to avoid those foods myself, just in case. That's all I know. I'm not going to pretend to know more than I do. All right. Much love. Next question. Around 6 weeks ago, while getting out of bed, I sprained my shoulders. I was able to raise a strict press 20 pounds for reps because I didn't quit, but odd pain around the front shoulder that connects to the upper chest still hurts. Not during the day, mostly a day or two after workouts, especially after side raises, which didn't occur before. I can't identify what's the issue because I can still lift heavy, but discomfort didn't go away. I understand if you can't answer because it's a bit health oriented, but I thought I didn't go too far, so I just want to see what you think about that. However, I still wish you only the best, man. If you think it's better to stay away from the questions, I won't mind. Much love. Thank you for being so understanding. Yeah, I don't think this is a problem. I don't think I'm in any trouble for telling you what I think here. I believe it's your rotator cuff is tweaked and irritated. I've done this many, many times over the years, and it's just like you're describing. It's like I can still lift heavy, but something kind of hurts in my shoulder after I do. And side laterals, yep, they'll set it off when your rotator cuffs. What happens is once it's irritated, it stays kind of swollen, and then it rubs on things. So it keeps getting irritated by the workouts. Now, I never stop working out because of a irritated rotator cuff. I do my best to try to work around it. I'm dealing with one right now. I got the same thing going on that you're describing. I'm so used to it, I'm kind of used to working around it. But generally, it's tricky to work around it because you keep irritating it, and then it takes a long time for the swelling to go down. The main point here is to start doing external rotation work. That's the whole point of external rotation work, is because everybody ends up with messed up rotator cuffs sooner or later if they don't do it. So head on over to AthleanX in the link below in the description box and check out some of his external rotation videos. He's very good at explaining and showing, and the guy works with a lot of pro athletes on keeping their shoulders healthy, and Jeff Cavalier's really good at explaining that stuff, and he's got a lot of good demo videos showing really easy to do exercises. It's not like you have to put in a lot of sets or anything. You just got to do a couple sets of this whenever you do a shoulder workout, and that way long term you'll have functional shoulders and not end up with real setbacks down the line. Okay, much love. Next question. Hey Nether, I just started taking iodine daily. However, I see lots of people say to take selenium with it. If that is the case, could you consume it with, let's say, a Brazil nut, or do they mean a more concentrated form? Well, a Brazil nut's fine, and you don't need a more concentrated form. I mean, basically what this boils down to is if your body's deficient in selenium, then it won't be able to use the iodine really well. So as long as there's enough selenium in your diet, you're fine. And you don't literally have to take the selenium at the same time with the iodine. It's just that your diet needs to contain enough selenium, okay? So you can Google high selenium foods and see if you're eating foods that have plenty of selenium. But there's nothing wrong with eating a Brazil nut a day. A lot of people say that's a great way to get your selenium. Why not? That way you're covered. Selenium's just one of those nutrients where it works with the iodine. So some people are selenium deficient, and then when you take iodine, they don't get the benefits, or it maybe depletes what selenium they have left and they become even more deficient because certain nutrients use other nutrients. For example, if you start high dosing vitamin D3, you're going to need more magnesium, and people are already deficient in magnesium, and this is one of the reasons when people take just vitamin D3, sometimes their health gets worse instead of better because they're making a magnesium deficiency worse than it already was. Zinc and copper and various other elements work together, and they're required in the body. So this is just one of those situations where you don't want to be selenium deficient because then the iodine's not going to work its best. So that's all it is. If you have selenium in your diet, you're fine. Beyond that, people are really overanalyzing and worrying and not really understanding how simple that is. So much love. Next question. Thoughts about organic maca root powder for performance enhancement. Have you tried it, and did you see improvements? I'm on it right now. Like I've said before in the past, I'm always rotating around between different adaptogenic herbs. I'll run maybe 2 or 3 at a time, and then I'll switch it up and run 2 or 3 different ones for a while. That's just the way I like to do it. Maca is one of the ones I'm using now. I believe there is a performance boost because it's an adaptogen, so your body becomes more harmonious and less stress. And the less energy your body's wasting on stress, the more energy it has for lifting or whatever you want to apply that energy to. So yes, all adaptogens that have been tested have been shown to have athletic performance benefits. Faster, stronger, more reps. Everyone they've tested has shown that. Because think about it, when you tune the body and all the things that are fighting and working all chaotically start working better together, that's a performance boost, So awesome. Do it. Take it. Much love. Next question. What's the best movie in your opinion? Man. Well, growing up, my favorite 2 movies were Predator and Braveheart. And now, I'm not sure I have a favorite movie now. I don't really have a favorite movie right now, but I've been binge watching all the Alien movies lately, like Alien 1, 2, 3, 4, and the newer ones that are prequels. And I don't know, I really like sci-fi like that. Sci-fi and sci-fi horror, I kind of like that. Predator and Alien type stuff. Yeah, I gotta leave it at that for now. Those are probably occupying the top of my list currently. Next question. I eat around 5,000 calories a day and I'm not gaining weight. Should I eat more or do I have another problem? Yeah, it's really more about what you absorb than what you eat. So I would what comes to mind is to get some plant-based digestive enzymes and start combining those with any large meal, especially any meal that combines multiple food groups, and watch what happens. Without even increasing your calories, you'll start getting more lean gains. And I said lean gains because some of the extra enzymes in it are fat digesters, and they'll go into your body and help break down extra body fat to a certain degree. It's not a magic pill. It's not like you take a few digestive enzymes and you just become ripped. But overall, the math shifts in this direction. So a lot of times with guys who are maybe more ectomorphic, or anyone who's feeling that their main limitation is on how much they can eat and digest and process, digestive enzymes can really add to what you assimilate out of what you eat. Because you'll find that 5,000 calories should be enough for just about anybody to grow on if you're absorbing enough of it. And also they will help you digest more while not using up as much of your own body's energy from all the digesting you're trying to do, which leaves you with more energy for whatever else you're doing, training and studying and living and so forth. So you might want to research that topic and look into that. Vince Gironda was big on it as far as how to have the best lean physique. And of course nobody listened to him because he's way ahead of his time, but he was the most ripped and impressive looking natural bodybuilder probably ever, and that was one of his key methods. So anyway, to get more out of the food you eat, that's what the digestive enzymes are for. That's one of the things they help with. Okay, your next question is, what gives more gains for you, high or low frequency? Much love. Frequency, high or low frequency? Well, it really depends on the method of training. When I was doing those Nether Better workouts that I filmed some, and I think System Blower has a bunch of them on his YouTube channel, if you guys want to look at some of those. That was a high volume phase, and when I'm doing that way, I'm not really overloading my nervous system by overexerting myself on any of those sets. So I can do that very frequently. I can do it almost every day at that volume. I'll still take some light days here and there because I think it's smart when your body tells you to. The way I'm training now, however, using much more high intensity techniques and much shorter workouts, I need longer rests, or I need less frequency to my workouts. Now I still do at least some kind of workout each day, but there's days where it's just like arm feeders, okay, or calves, or a little bit of lateral deltoid. I'll do like lateral delts one day. Small stuff, light stuff that doesn't drain a whole lot of resources, because the transcendent training method that I'm using for certain big compound lifts now is incredibly intense. It's like high intensity training times Tom Platz or something. I don't know. It's crazy. It digs into your reserves, your recovery, big time. My last, for example, two or 3 days ago, I wrapped my legs so they were occluded, and I did a vertical leg press with 600 pounds for 60 reps. And, I feel fine after doing it and everything, but if I try to do a heavy workout too soon, I can tell I'm weaker. It's obvious. So that tells me, hey, when you're training this intense, you have to have extra recuperation days to be progressing. Otherwise, you're just going backwards because you're having weak workouts, So it totally depends what methodology of training you're using. The more high intensity whatever you're doing is, and there's a variety of ways to achieve high intensity. It's not just one thing. But the more truly highly intense what you're doing is, the less frequent you're going to be able to do it. And this applies to everybody to some degree or another. I can handle more volume of training than anybody as far as I'm concerned. But even with me, if I do something big and compound with a transcendent training method, I need to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 days of light stuff before I'm ready to do anything heavy again. And that's, well, and it depends on the lift, because I did that 50 reps with 1,000 pounds on the rack pull, and I'll probably do that again on Monday, which is a 2-week break from one to the other, and I'm going to be shooting for the full 100 reps on Monday. But I wouldn't try it any sooner than that, because you really need to make sure you're fully recovered when you're pushing personal bests to absolute phenomenal differences from one workout to the next. It's like adding an entire new workout into one set. It's crazy. So that's one of those questions where if you... It's hard for me to tell you which way I'm going to make more gains, because both of those systems will work depending on how well you're doing it. How well you're doing that high volume or that high frequency workout, how much you're making each rep count, how much you're making your diet and your lifestyle and your mindset count, versus this other system I'm doing now with truly highly intense workouts and then more rest. How well am I doing that? How well am I eating? How well am I resting? I don't know, on me personally, which way I'm going to make more gains. I feel like the kind of gains that I'm making now with this transcendent training are more impressive, because the kind of things you can do when you can do a 50,000 pound set or more, that's crazy. That's amazing. But as far as muscle mass and size gains and bodybuilding, I can do it really well either way. You have to adjust for your recovery according to the different system and adjust your diet. when I was doing the more high rep training, the Nether by the Day, I was eating a lot more carbs than I am now. Because my training is not so high volume now, it's important for a guy like me to have a lower carb diet. Otherwise, I would be getting fatter. As intense as my training days are now, that still wouldn't save me from the fact that on days when I'm sitting around doing light workouts or maybe just an arm workout that day, if I was still eating all those carbs, I'd be getting fatter. So everything depends on which system you're using and what you're doing to maximize your effort. A lot of the reason a lot of people out there have poo-pooed on HIT training is because they pushed out when they were doing HIT training. They didn't make that one working set the absolute end-all be-all brutal thing that it could be. So if you're not able to put in the intensity because it's too painful or too whatever, because you're not focused enough or you're not into it enough, and you're doing HIT training, well, your HIT training is going to suck, and then you're going to think that HIT training sucks, but it doesn't. It just has to be done to the utmost extreme, or it's not going to work. Whereas with volume, you should still make every rep count. And that harkens back to my whole mind-muscle connection video. The reason one guy gets better gains than the next guy doing the same workout, it's not always so much about genetics as it is about making the reps count, mind-muscle connection. Working that muscle instead of just making the weight move. So it's really all about what you're putting into either system. And there are body types, of course, that are going to do much better on one system or the other. If you're really endomorphic, then HIT training might not be your best friend because you might still gain too much fat on your rest days. And if you're really ectomorphic, high volume training is not your best friend because there's just no way for you to be infusing and actually digesting and assimilating enough nutrients throughout the day to make up for all that training you're doing. Already having a fast metabolism that's burning more away all the time. So for me personally, I can make pretty good gains either way, but I have to adjust my diet in order for those gains to stay lean. So that's a lot to think about, and I know it's not a really direct answer, but it just goes to show I can't say one's better than the other because it depends on the person, what metabolism they have, what their willpower is like, what kind of training they're more likely to fully engage in and really make the reps count, you know. So all those factors matter. When I design a program for somebody, that's why one of the things I ask is tell me about your body type, you know. I need to know what kind of body type we're working with here. That has a lot to do with what direction is going to be more productive for a person. Awesome question, though. Much love. Next question. What do you think about starting strength and novice program? I don't have any thoughts because I don't know what it is, my friend. Like I said, I haven't really followed any program, so I just don't know. I'm sure it has its pluses and minuses. Maybe somebody else here who does know like to post something on the thread about that, and that would be cool. I like it when you guys put info about the things I just don't know, you know. Or even the ones I do, when you guys add in cool links on stuff, it's awesome. It's all part of the library of information we're building for each other here. Okay, much love. Next question. Any tips for dealing with excessive sweating all over the body even when not doing any exercise? Yeah, I've had stages where I was the sweatiest person I know, and at this point I honestly believe it has something to do with blood sugar. So my tip is get a glucose meter. They're very affordable, and it's an amazing tool for personal mastery of your own body. And start checking 30 minutes to an hour after you eat a meal, after you consume any food. Start checking your blood sugar and learning which things make your blood sugar go too high. And if you don't have any blood sugar issues, so be it. You'll still be better off with a glucose meter because you can literally check every food combination. So you know when you're recomping, you want to keep your blood sugar lower. You can make the food combinations that work that way. When you're trying to gain mass, you probably want to spike it a little bit higher. So you can check for the foods that do that. It's an invaluable tool for any athlete or bodybuilder. You can't really go wrong with it. But I highly suspect the sweating has something to do with metabolic fluctuations, having something to do with blood sugar. What else? Adrenals. Adrenals are involved in some way. Adrenals functioning wildly. Well, this kind of goes for everybody these days. Do some research on adrenal fatigue and see if you feel like any of it applies to you. And then if you do, use some of the methods, whatever clicks with you that you'd like to try as a method of healing it. Off the top of my head, that's all I can think of that I would imagine is tied to the excessive sweating situation. Much love. And next question. Thoughts on the Illuminati? Well, I've said too much about them before and got myself in trouble, but just some general thoughts about it. The Illuminati. You got a group of people on this planet, members of secret societies, who keep a lot of information, and most of it's metaphysical information about how life really works. They keep it to themselves in their books, and they don't share it with the general public, because if you don't know how things really work, you'll never change anything. Because you're operating, believing life works a certain way when it really doesn't. So you don't really have access to understanding how to use your own power. And that's the way they like it. Now, Illuminati, those of you listening, I'm not trying to piss you off. You got to understand that change is inevitable anyway, and people are waking up anyway, and I'm not telling anybody to start a riot or try to overthrow you or take what's yours, so calm the fuck down, alright? But for the rest of us, just know there are people who like to hoard knowledge about how things work so that they can have a hand up over the rest of you and call themselves the Illuminated because you don't know what they know because they're purposely keeping it hidden. They're not that illuminated and they're not that wise, or they'd be using the metaphysical knowledge they have for something much more productive than they are. So there's nothing to be jealous of, and they're basically just scared shitless that you guys are going to wake up and take from them what's theirs and turn the tables over, and then you're going to be the Illuminati and they're going to be the poor people. It's they're not the big elite thing that you think to be scared of, okay? They're just people who hoard knowledge about how energy actually works. And they don't tell the public, and they never intend to, but there's channels and there's other ways that this information's coming through to people anyway. So change is inevitable. Humans are going to wake up as they choose to, and that's the other side of this equation. The way life really works is that there wouldn't be anybody holding power over the populace if the populace was owning their own power. That's the way energy works. But again, when the means by which energy works have been kept hidden on purpose, it's not really anybody's fault that they don't know how to use their own power, how to call it back to themselves. Honestly, we can get much more deeply into this over on my metaphysical channel. There's a lot of great information on this over there, so let me know if you're interested, if you're not already a member of that channel, okay? But that's about it. It's one of these deals where if you think the solution is to overthrow the Illuminati, never works that way. All that happens is you just become the same thing, or somebody else just steps up and takes their place. The only way this will change is when the world, the populace, the general masses of people wake themselves up. As soon as they wake themselves up, all the games that the Illuminati plays are over, done. You don't have to kill anybody, you don't have to go start a war. It's over when people wake themselves up. They won't be able to sell you guys on the systems of bullshit that everybody's living in when you can actually be illuminated for yourself. All the games are over, and then those parasites just go starve somewhere probably because they don't have any real life skills. They've spent their life stealing what's yours. I don't wish anything on them that way. It's just the reality of the situation. When you're a parasite and a liar and you hide in the shadows and just, hoard things and keep people down with lies, and then they wake themselves up, you don't have anything to feed on anymore. So you're kind of fucked, so to speak. But like I said before, I don't spread messages of, overthrowing anybody or riots or nothing because it doesn't work. And I'm not into vain, pointless activities. And number two, human beings are responsible for empowering themselves. And when they do that, there won't be governments or secret organizations or anybody else ruling over them because they won't be willing to live as cattle anymore. And when you don't live like cattle in your way of thinking, if you're not sheep, there won't be a shepherd anymore. There won't be anybody using you that way. That's just the way it works. I don't want to get into a 3-hour explanation on here. This channel's not really for that. So, cool question. Moving on. Much love. Could you go into detail on bone regeneration? My dad suffers from arthritis and tendinitis. Arthritis and tendinitis. Okay. Well, of course, there's a lot of things that would help to know about his lifestyle. There might be some things that he needs to eliminate from his life, but let me just give you things that are really good for building up bones and joints. Diatomaceous earth, food grade, bone broth, Gotu Kola, a high quality magnesium supplement, and vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 and iodine. So almost everything on my basic supplement stack, plus the bone broth, the diatomaceous earth, and the Go2 Cola. If you look up each of those things and research it, you'll understand the connections of how they're very powerful for regenerating the skeleton. And the cool thing about each one of those substances is they have a long list of other health benefits. And the body's a holistic thing. If you're going to heal one part of it, you're going to have a beneficial effect on others. And most things from nature, if they're good for healing one thing in your body, they're actually good for healing a lot of things. So you can't really go wrong with good nutrition, because not only will it help with the skeleton, but it will no doubt benefit his health in more other ways than I could list. Okay? That's my answer for you. Much love. Next question. From a health standpoint, is it viable to consume extra virgin olive oil in order to get extra calories at the end of the day, so long as it falls in line with my macros? Absolutely. I'd encourage you to get high quality organic extra virgin. You got the extra virgin, so yeah, I'd encourage you to go organic and go all the way with it. And organic extra virgin olive oil is a super healthy substance. It will not make you fatter. It's anti-estrogenic. It will raise your testosterone. It has healthy forms of vitamin E and vitamin C and a bunch of other things your body needs. Absolutely. I would highly recommend that. And anybody listening who's looking for ways to get extra calories in your diet and healthy oils fit within your macros, this is a great way to do it. Okay? Awesome question. Much love. Moving on. Thoughts on rugby? Rugby's so fun, man. I never played on any real team or anything, but I went to a pretty wild school growing up, and when we would get to play in rugby at lunch, for one thing, somebody always left in the ambulance, but it was just so fun. I don't know. That's my thoughts. Super fun, super awesome sport. I never got to play enough of it, to be honest with you. But yeah, rugby, very cool. And obviously it's a very physical sport. I mean, you know, all the things we cover on this channel, all the functional strength and power and endurance and all that, etc., it's all very relevant. So, you know, and the supplements and the higher performance and yeah. But as far as sports go, I really think that rugby's awesome. That's my thought. Okay, next question. How to make subliminal videos work faster? Well, it's one of those things where it's kind of the opposite of making it work faster. It's actually how to reduce your subconscious resistance to it working faster. If you were able to put a subliminal onto the ears of someone who had been in some kind of a coma their whole life, and this was their first day awake, so they didn't have any of the beliefs that the rest of us picked up in this world, and you gave them a subliminal, it would be amazing how fast and how potently it would work, because they don't have anything stopping it from working. So it's a matter of observing all the thoughts and feelings you have that cause you to doubt that it will work. And when you observe them, don't be frustrated with them, because that just ingrains them deeper. Don't be frustrated. Just go, I see. Just observe it. This is my resistance. This is my doubt. It's okay. This is normal. And by observing it, it actually helps to clear those doubts away. Just looking at them, not giving into them, not believing them, just analyzing whatever in you, whatever doubts come up or whatever fears. It's always rooted in a fear. Human limitations to anything are always tied to some fear. So what are the doubts and what fear are they tied to? You know, down deep. If I can't make this subliminal work, I'm not good enough, or I'll never have this, or I can't have it, or whatever the fear is it's tied to. That's the resistance within you, within all of us, within our subconscious mind. So the faster subliminal will work will have to do with the less resistance a person still has in their own subconscious to it working. To give you a simple answer. Much love. Next question. Have you got any experience with Berserker Gang? No, I don't. Somebody post something here if you want. Somebody answer this guy. Get a conversation going. I hate when somebody posts something and they get nothing. Next question. Much love. I gotta expand this here. Okay. Is a full body 3 times a week or 5 times a week better if total weekly volume is the same? Wow. Ooh. Let me really think. You know what? Personally, I would go with the 3-day, because if you're saying the volume is the same, I'm assuming you mean that the total tonnage of weight lifted is going to be the same either way. So if I'm understanding that right, I would take the 3-day, because anytime you compact the same amount of work into shorter time frames, that is a progression technique. That's an intensity technique. So theoretically, all other things being equal, you're going to get more gains from doing the same amount of work in 3 days that you would in 5 days. Only if all other things really are equal, okay? Question B. I'm never sore, no matter what I do. Why is that? I've always been training full body with different amounts of volume. Well, it's not a bad thing. You don't have to be sore to grow. If you're sore, you definitely know you did enough to grow. But not everybody gets as sore as others. And I've noticed that when certain supplementation's going really well in my life, it's hard for me to get sore. Sometimes I'm barely sore when I really tried hard to be sore, you know? So 2 things. Number 1, it doesn't mean you're not growing. Number 2, it means that your body's doing a very good job of clearing out acids that are left over from a workout. Maybe you're just faster at recovery in that sense. So as long as you're making gains in strength or mass or whatever it is you're working for, it's a good thing that you're not even getting sore. It just means you're blessed in a certain way on your recovery. Certain systems in your body are doing a really good job of mopping up the mess after you tear up muscles. They're doing it faster than most people. They're at least buffering and cleaning up the acid residues from a workout faster than most people do. So that in and of itself is not bad, as long as you are getting gains. If you're not getting any gains, then maybe you're just not hitting it hard enough. But if you are getting gains, then you are hitting it hard enough, and it's okay that you're not sore. Other topics. Biokinesis, gains, question mark. Yeah. And we've covered that here. I believe they work. And it's an individual thing. If somewhere deep in your mind you don't believe it's going to work, it's not going to work, okay? If you really don't believe it will. Even if you want to believe it work, but you really don't, it's not going to, okay? Because that's even how medicine and healing works, okay? If a person believes something's going to heal them, it's about 99% more likely to heal them than if they don't, okay? Power of the mind, my friend. How have your views changed in general since opening your third eye? My gosh. I could not even begin to explain all that here. Although, I almost have to explain this backwards. I think that the reason I've reopened my third eye is because my views changed, okay? I had to have healthier views of myself, of reality, of what life is, to even be willing to open the third eye, to even have any reason to believe there's even any positive point in doing so. Now, since opening it and the amazing breakthroughs I've had, oh my God, I can't even list it all here because people wouldn't believe me or they'd think I'm just crazy. So, man, how have my views not changed? Everything's changed. I regularly have conversations and connections with, I don't want to sound too crazy on this channel. You should probably ask that question over on my metaphysical channel, okay? Because then I can really say anything, and everybody over there is comfortable with that, and it doesn't seem crazy. But a few things. I find that I can get information or answers to anything at any time. Let me just stop there with one thing to give you guys an idea of the implications here. I can literally, now it doesn't mean I always understand it because it might be beyond me, but I can get information and direction and answers and guidance to anything. Literally. Okay? Think about that. That's really enough. The implications of that opens the biggest can of worms ever, right? Much love. Next question. Hey, any thoughts on healing a 20-year lasting tinnitus? Thank you. If tinnitus is that ringing in the ears, then start out with building up the magnesium levels in your body, okay? There are people that I've read about that they finally resolved their tinnitus because it was tied to a magnesium deficiency. That question I was answering earlier, where I was referencing the fact that if you take high dose vitamin D, sometimes a magnesium deficiency will get worse. There's been people who got tinnitus from taking high dose vitamin D because their magnesium levels got too low. Synchronistic much? So anyway, that's where I would start. Do some research there and see where it leads you down that rabbit hole, my friend. Take the red pill and go for it. Much love. Next question. My hands sometimes rip when I do rack pulls. What gloves do you recommend? Also, fuck the powerlifters who say gloves are for pussies. I'm gonna use them for my rack pulls if I have to. Yeah. Seriously, anybody that would pretend that whether you're wearing gloves or not when you're doing a rack pull has anything to do with how manly you are, obviously that guy's on a shit ton of steroids and he's full of shit and he's insecure anyway, okay? He's overcompensating for something. Big time. Because seriously, what the fuck? Gloves? No gloves? Either way, you're rack pulling weight. That's the part that matters. So anyway, before I get on a rant, I don't have any recommendations for gloves because none of the ones I've got worked right. What I've actually done, I'll take hand wraps, like boxer hand wraps, and wrap my hand just a little bit, a thin layer. Now, sometimes you got to try it a few times. Depending on how you wrap them, it might kind of wad up on the bar and just mess you up. Other times, if it lines up and wraps onto the bar right, it can kind of add. You might not even want to do your whole hand. You might want to just put the wrap over the part that tears, okay? And then chalk the rest. Now, I use, weight straps on anything significant. And when I'm doing rack pulls, I put my quads against the bar and I push backwards with my rear delts so that the bar doesn't try to spin as hard while I'm lifting it. All those things help with grip. Another thing I've noticed is the bars that have the more rough, sharp, the little diamond gripping grooves on it. Those bars tear hands, and bars that have a weaker, smoother, not such a rough groove pattern on them don't tear hands. They're a little harder to hold on to, but with chalk it's still better because you don't rip your calluses off. But honestly, man, I don't have any gloves to recommend because I haven't found any that worked right for me. I have torn my hands plenty of times doing block pulls and stuff, and honestly, I can say over time they have become a lot tougher. But I'm not recommending you just go tear your hands until they get tough. I don't know. Google out there and see if there's any damn gloves, and maybe somebody can link some here. Somebody who's listening who's used gloves that actually do work, that don't make you lose your grip ability on a rack pull or a deadlift or something like that, please link it here. I'm sure everybody could use a reference like that, so I appreciate it. I'll thank you in advance for that. Much love. Next question. I'm a teenager, and every time a woman walks by beside me in the gym, I have an erection. And it's very embarrassing. Do you have any solution for this problem? No, because back in my day, oh God, I just used the strap it up out of my belt and hidden under my t-shirt method, and then lean forward so your t-shirt's, I'd always wear a loose t-shirt so it's hanging off my body, basically so it just couldn't be seen. Because, what's a guy going to do? Are we going to chemically neuter you at a young age so that you don't have that physical? No, that's not a solution, right? Are we going to tell you not to be out in public because you can't be around people because you get too many boners? No, that's not really a solution. I don't have a perfect solution. I just hid mine the best I could. Because I dealt with the same thing, man. As a teenager, and even once in a while, not as a teenager. So, yeah, that's just one of those things. It's one of those things. There's no easy solution for that. You just got to get better at hiding it. You got to get better at knowing when it's coming and getting ready to hide it. The way you dress. Think about when you're going to the gym and you know this is going to happen, dress in a way it'll make it easier to keep that situation hidden when you need to, okay? That's honestly, I know it's not ideal, but it can help you get by. Much love, man. I understand. That's awesome. Better than having the opposite problem, right? All right. Couple more. Couple more for today. Do you think it's possible for 50% of the population to reach your strength or even close to it if they find themselves and have the right mindset like you do? Reaching a higher consciousness and everything you talked about. Well, sure. It's possible. Absolutely. You know, it's possible. I mean, how possible? What are the odds of that? Well, pretty small, but it's possible. Now, it's one of those things that because the odds are so small, it's not like 50% of the population are going to do it. But an individual who cares enough, an individual who's, on their own individual path. So are you asking me do I think even 50% of the population has enough genetic potential to be as strong as I am? Yes. Because again, guys, I don't believe that I've reached anywhere near my max strength, to be honest with you. Now, as much conflict as that brings up in some people's minds, I don't look at it like I'm the pinnacle thing. I look at it like I'm over here evolving on my own special path, and I don't put any limits on where that's going to go. So could at least half the population get at least this strong with the right mindset? Sure. Sure. I believe it. What it would take for that many people to find that in themselves, well, let's change the whole world and find out. Cool question. What's your opinion on training full body 2 times a week, only going to the gym 2 times weekly, but supplementing with calisthenics at home? Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure if you're using like a heavy day and a lighter, higher volume day split or not, but hey, there's many people out there that will tell you 2 days a week is great. For some people, it's the best thing ever. And, it totally depends what you're doing on your 2 full body days. I mean, I'm sure one full body workout could be very different from another person's full body workout. So with nothing more to go on than what do you think of 2 days a week and supplementing with calisthenics, I think that if you do it right, you should be able to achieve your goals, whatever they are that way, Is it optimum for you? I don't know, because I don't even know what your goals are for sure off the top of my head, but nothing wrong with it. And there's plenty of people that I think have made really great physiques doing it that way. So, yeah, that's all I can really say off the top of my head about that. So, that's it for today, guys. I got to get on to some other things. Much love and appreciation to whoever timestamps. Much love and appreciation to whoever puts links to any of the things in here that you have relevant info to add to, especially the ones I didn't have an answer for. I really like it when somebody can cover me on that and help us out here. So that's it. I can't think of any other cool footnotes at the moment. So, yep, over and out for now, Jedis.